Oh. Let's do this.
Here, in my own home, my spidey senses a threat. How'd you get in here? How'd you get in here, huh? How'd you get in here? Well, I'm just gonna have to take you down. You're not answering any of my questions. I'm coming for you, K9. Boom, 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 boom. Get it. You're going back to prison, dude. And look at you, K9. You're right back where you belong. You thought you could beat Spider-Man, but you can't, because you're just the K9. You're not Spider-Man, dude. You're not Spider-Man. You can never be Spider-Man. I'm Spider-Man. Is Spider-Man Brand New Day the best Spider-Man movie yet? I honestly think so. I've seen it twice now. First on the Thursday it came out, and then yesterday when I'm recording this. Of course, spoilers. I assume if anyone's watching this, they've already seen the movie, but just thought I'd say it. So, as I said, seen the movie twice now, and I'm just going to jump right into it. I honestly enjoyed the movie more in my second viewing, and I think that was because the first viewing, the pacing, it plays out, the movie honestly plays out way that I did not expect to at all. And it, like watching it, I was thinking, okay, so if this happens right here, then this happened. But I thought this thing right here would have happened before that, and then that thing would have happened. So I just kind of came more concerned, like with thinking about like, okay, so this movie is not playing out how I thought it would be. Instead of saying, okay, so this is what like the second viewing, I was just able to appreciate the movie for what it was instead of like thinking, okay, so this happened, this happened. I thought that would have happened then that would have happened. Like I thought, oh, so Jean, she's obviously going to be in DODC custody and then break out and then all this. But then no, it was like she wasn't in custody before. She's going after them to find her sister. So it didn't play out in a way that I expected. And I think when I actually got to the second time, this is probably just how I experienced the movie though. But I loved it so much. Another part of this is also because I want to say first, Sadie Sink as Jean Grey, she's fabulous. She honestly is perfect, and I cannot wait to get more of her as Jean Grey. But there's honestly no reason to hide the fact that she was Jean Grey. It didn't help the movie at all. I think. I mean, it didn't take away from the movie really either. Or I guess it took away a little bit because I think in the first act, it's kind of like you're doing like, oh, who is this? Oh, it's Jean Grey. Cool, we know. It's like it was obvious the whole time. There was genuinely no reaction in when I saw it on that Thursday opening night. There was no reaction to that. Oh, hey, it's Jean Elaine Grey. That there was no reaction in my theater because I assume everyone already knew. So I don't know why they hit it, and I think that is partially the reason why when I watched it the second time, I didn't like the whole guise of who it is gone. And yes, I know why she's doing it, but I feel like they should have stuck with the why she's doing it because that was infinitely more interesting than who she is. So I mean, they do also. I loved the way that they made us sympathetic for her and how what she's doing is to find her sister. She's going after what she thinks is something like a spot where she's being kept in VMAX, but it turns out to just be that vent. The last thing she saw, a message that meant nothing, which is heartbreaking. Just to see her realize that and learn that, it's so sad. So I think they had a really good why, but I don't think they needed to have the whole thing of who is this. I think it should have just been present in the trailer, or just maybe they could have reworked the movie a little bit. But I just feel like we just it's Jean Grey. They should have just said it. I don't know why they were keeping such huge secret about it. Real quick, one thing I want to add that I forgot is that when Jean is going after MJ, she does this little wave to taunt Spider-Man, and that's the same wave that her sister did when she was teaching her in the flashback how to mind hop. I thought that was just a nice little moment to show the connection between these sisters. The visuals of Brand New Day are easily the best we've ever seen in a Spider-Man movie. It just I love just how real it feels, how ground feels. Like the colors are vibrant. We can feel the grittiness, like the griminess of New York. And this movie, honestly, was really not shot in New York, like at all. I think they only did pickups. So the fact that out of all of Tom Holland's movies, I'd say this is felt the most like New York. It's crazy because it wasn't shot in New York. And that is one thing I think that the Home trilogy, I never really felt as strongly as I did in this movie, is that the movie just feels so much like New York, especially with how, that scene at the end of the movie where Peter gets out of the hospital, Frank is going "Rrr," like doing his gorilla noises, pretending to be Spider-Man, like waving at people, and we just see that the city loves Spider-Man, and I think that's something that the Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire trilogy did very well, where those movies felt very much like New York, both in its setting and everything, pizza time, and also just the way that the people of New York helped and loved Spider-Man. And I think we can feel that a lot in this movie of how much they love Spider-Man. I mean, that one DODC agent at the after the first whole tank thing at the DODC facility is like, Spider-Man, I would never do that. I love you, Spider-Man. He's like, all right, buddy. Like, I just love that so much, and it really shows how Spider-Man he even though Peter feels alone and isolated, that Spider-Man was able to create a community of people that cared for him, even when he feels lonely. Like at the end of the movie, he realizes that he doesn't have to do it alone. And that line he says on Aunt May's grave, he's like, you don't have to worry. I mean, I'm not doing it alone anymore. It's just so sad, and I love this movie so much. Like the themes, they hit everything so well, and each character played into Peter's, character arc. It actually fit what Peter was going through, and they all represent something. Like Punisher, Frank Castle, he represents what too much isolation does to somebody, and Peter's able to help him with that because they're friends, and the banter between John Bernthal and Tom Holland was hilarious. It's so funny. It really just helps that they're actually like friends in real life because they brought so much chemistry on screen. They were the funniest part of this movie. I just love like when Frank he sees Hulk and he was like, oh shit, and it was just such a funny reaction. But yeah, then there's Florence Pugh. She's here as Yelena Belova, and she also just represents she she's not alone. She has people, and that's like what she tells Peter that he needs is people in his life. And then Jean Grey is the representation of if he didn't have Aunt May, if he didn't have Tony Stark, if he had no mentor to guide him, he would have been on a similar path with Jean. She had nobody, and I love that the memory, that final conversation from Homecoming that we never got to see. The memory of Aunt May is lives in Peter, and that he's able to use that to guide um, Jean. And he even when the memory of Aunt May disappears, he takes on that role and helping Jean be, even if it's not for a while, be a little bit of a mentor and help her go on this path of healing. And I really appreciate that because I just love that like Aunt May is still within Peter, even though she's no longer there. Her memory lives on in everything he does, and I really love that. That whole conversation was just beautiful, and I was tearing up watching it. It's so good. It just pulls at your heartstrings a lot. Back to the visuals real quick. The suit is insanely gorgeous. It just has such a real feel to it, and I just love the fact that like we can see his ears poking out a little bit. It reminds me a lot of that one Alex Ross art piece where you can see his ears poking out. It just makes the suit feel like real cloth, like it's something that Peter actually made, and I love that a lot. And I have seen people like criticize that how like Peter he's like not that broke in this movie. He has all this technology, and I think it's been 4 years. I think that's a great way of showing Peter's intellect of how he's able to scrap from nothing and you know build himself up again. I really liked it. It just did a good job at showcasing how smart Peter Parker really is. But yeah, the suit, as I said, phenomenal, amazing. It's great. It really gives that Andrew Garfield vibe that I really love. And this movie does have a lot of like it visually it reminds me a lot of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man movies, the Amazing Spider-Man movies, like the web swinging. Like I loved all the first like first person point of view shots from Spider-Man. Very much reminded me of the Amazing Spider-Man, like when he makes his suit and does that swing up onto that building and lands on it, and we get his POV. It was great. This movie just pulls so much from Amazing Spider-Man's like visuals and just makes like does them insanely well as well. So I absolutely adore that. The action was also the greatest we've seen in a Spider-Man movie. Like yes, I like how in the Amazing Spider-Man Peter moves like a spider a lot, but every hit we could feel like when Peter went rageful, like his like spider, like his eyes went black, and he was slamming on the on Jean and Scorpion. He slams the Scorpion and like hits the cop car. We just feel every hit, and I love that. The action, the choreography was phenomenal work. Like it just felt so real. Every punch, every cut that Peter had, I could feel it, and it's just like, man, they did such an amazing job. I think I don't know who they got on. I know they had, I think it was Jackie Chan's stunt team was part of it. I don't think they were leading the stunts, but I feel like that definitely helped them. But yeah, easily the best action we've seen in a Spider-Man movie. That whole final fight scene with the hand, I really loved, and just the whole web tornado thing he does was crazy. The fight scene at the DODC's main building was phenomenal. It was so good. The Hulk, just Hulk actually getting to be the Hulk was so good. We've missed out on actually having Savage Hulk, and he actually got the Thunderclap, which is like the second or third time. I think he might have Thunderclapped in She-Hulk. I can't remember, but Joss Whedon never did it because he thought it was stupid, and I mean that's really dumb. Hulk's Thunderclap is awesome. I loved it when he did it in Incredible Hulk. So it's really cool to actually see him do it again, and I like the moment when Banner gets taken away and he's not even worrying about himself. He's worrying if other people are okay. It just shows how great of a person Bruce Banner is, and he's a hero. Brand New Day filled me with so much joy, and it just feels so much like a comic book brought to life. The way it incorporated all of these characters, the Hulk, Black Widow, Yelena Belova, Frank Castle, Punisher, and Jean Grey. It all felt like, like reading a comic. You just pick up a random one, and hey, there's all these characters, and we get to just live in the actual Marvel universe. And I know people mainly I haven't really seen much about Brand New Day. I've seen a little bit, but mainly I know like people in the home trilogy would always be like, there's like too much MCU elements. We want Spider-Man just to be on his own, and I think that like that's kind of what I expected coming out of No Way Home. I would have think, okay, so Peter's going to be alone. We're not really going to see any other heroes. We're going to see him by himself. But I love just how much MCU is incorporated in this movie, but it does it perfectly. As I mentioned, it plays into Peter's character arc and what he could become, and but also it just like picking up a comic, reading it, and then seeing, oh hey, there's this character here. That's so cool. I love to see it, and it just feels like we're living in the Marvel universe, really, and that's what we want from Spider-Man. I think like people when they think like I think there is a unique vibe that the Toby and Andrew movies bring because that's just Spider-Man on his own, and I love that too. But we have Spider-Man in the MCU. I want to see him interact with all these people. I don't want to see him, not interact with Punisher, not with Frank Castle. And so I love that these movies actually give us that because we didn't get Spider-Man in the MCU till 2016. He wasn't there at the start. So I love that like I mean, of course, it's contractually they have to have MCU characters in it, of course, but it just fleshes out the universe in a way that I really love. And this movie also just hits like a truck with its emotions. Like it's just hard to not get emotional watching the movie because of everything that Peter's been through, but also like that moment when Jean is taken over Zendaya or taken over MJ, and she fakes Peter or MJ remembering Peter. I was like, I knew in that moment that that was, not true. I could tell. I was like, no, she doesn't remember. But it just to give Peter that false hope, everything that he's ever wanted in those last 4 years, and take that away. It's just so cruel, and Peter doesn't deserve that. But it just made for a great moment, and I also really love that conflict between when I like to think Peter definitely left out that note for MJ to find because he knows he couldn't find a way to tell her or say it to her, and I think subconsciously he like wanted her to find it. That's why he left it out, and it's the same reason on why when they're back when Peter's tinkering with his inhibitor and he's not wearing his mask and he has to put it on before MJ comes to the side. Part of him wanted her to see him without it. That's why he wasn't wearing it, just to feel like he was connecting with her on a human level again instead of behind this mask. But yeah, the scene where MJ just tells Peter that she doesn't remember him, that she doesn't love him, it just hits so hard because Peter's just been through so much, and then just that web swing home was sad. But then MJ, she says, "Hey, why don't you come up and talk to Ned?" And I just love that whole scene of just him getting along with his friends. And then when she shows that she drew him without his mask and Ned, it just hit so hard because this is all he's wanted for the last 4 years. He shouldn't be alone. And I love that Peter at the end of this movie he recognizes that. One thing I noticed watching the movie the second time was when Peter orders the pizza, the Little Caesars pizza, and the camera like pans up and it shows the spider in the web in his door frame. It's like the exact same thing when Peter traps Jean in the mind of that dude in the helicopter after she goes in the dude like at the wedding and he webs her to the crane. It's like the exact same thing. And I really like that because that shows how these two things are. Peter cannot contain his spider, innateness, the powers that they have. It's not you're not supposed to hide who you are, and that's just kind of the same thing with Jean, where you can't contain her also, but that's that kind of like the themes of the mutant saga is of being who you are, and this movie lays a lot of the groundwork on that, especially with the universal inhibitor, which is not going to go well. Peter does not know what he just brought upon the world. It's not going to go well. I like watching that movie. I was like, dude, Peter, you can't do that. You can't do that. That's not going to go well. And I just can't wait to see the ramifications of that. Metzger and the DODC also just made for great villains in this movie. It's hard to not hate Metzger. He's so just evil, and they're definitely going to use the inhibitor for mutant collars or whatever. And I think it's possible that they build the Sentinels. That was kind of a theory we've had since Wonder Man, really. And I think it's very likely that they're going to create Sentinels in some fashion. So that's just not going to be fun for anybody. I also like Metzger. He really reminded me of Cecil from Invincible because he took the hand, turned him into an asset, and he's not telling Peter things like how Cecil doesn't tell Mark things. I could very well tell that the second he said, "Oh, Sarah was just a coworker. She died recently or passed away," I knew he was lying through his teeth to Spider-Man. Now, one thing I've been seeing a lot about this movie, people talk about online, is that the fact that Peter uses mass surveillance and runs facial recognition throughout the city, and I understand why people are saying. I don't think people are saying that's propaganda for mass surveillance. I don't think that's true because so many other superhero properties have done that. I mainly think back to the Arrowverse, like all the time in Arrow, Felicity would be like, "Oh, I'm using the CCTV cameras in the city, running facial recognition, tracking people. Like, oh, here's a crime there." Like they actively use the infrastructure that's already there. That's what Peter's doing as well. In the Flash show, they do it too. They track metahumans that way, and then here's a metahuman blip. Let's access the city footage and see. Oh, there's a guy there. Well, let's go do it. It's like I understand what people are saying, but I don't think this movie advocates for the use of it at all. It's just that Peter uses it. So I see what people mean, but I would not argue that this movie is propaganda for it. It's not. It also I think it can be a thing that like the universal inhibitor, it's going to be something that comes back in the mutant saga and that we realize the ramifications of it. This is just like the setup for it to go wrong. And if that's how it is, I don't, it's not propaganda. I mean, I guess we'll see when the mutant saga starts, but I feel like that's something that is very likely to happen with it. And part of this argument, I've also seen people say that it's propaganda for cops as well, copganda, whatever you want to say. And just because like Peter's friends with Jean DeWolf, which is not true. I mean, people made the comparison to Mass Surveillance to The Dark Knight, which that movie handles it very well. That was such a great moment in that movie. But also, people are like saying, okay, look, that moment, that's how they should handle mass surveillance. Fair, of course, I think so. But also, they're failing to recognize that Batman's friend is Jim Gordon, a cop, and they're criticizing the fact that Peter in this movie is friends with a cop, and then bring up the whole the Batman, the Dark Knight thing, but don't mention that hey, Jim Gordon's a cop. It's like a double standard. Just like what like if this is cop propaganda, why isn't that? It's the same exact thing. They're just buddies with cops, and even like people would that was a whole thing of like criticism in the Insomniac games, the first one, where people were like they toned down the cop elements in the second one. I wouldn't say that was cop propaganda either. Just showing that there's good cops out there isn't necessarily cop propaganda, but whatever. But overall, I absolutely love this movie. It's up there in the top Spider-Man movies. I think it goes or it might be hard to rank them exactly, but I think in the pool of best Spider movies, Brand New Day, Spider-Man 2, of course, Into and Across the Spider-Verse. I would throw No Way Home too because I love that movie, and I would throw my I would throw Amazing Spider-Man up there because of how much I love Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. So I think those are probably like my favorite slash the best Spider-Man movies. But that's not a detriment to really any of the others. I mean, Spider-Man 3, I think it's still good. But we're talking about Brand New Day. So I love this movie. I think it is the epitome of Spider-Man. It is everything that I love about Spider-Man in Spider-Man. So I just love this movie a lot. And one last thing I actually want to add now that I'm thinking of it is MJ and Ned. Do they really remember Peter? I think so because I was conflicted about it at first, but MJ definitely at least remembers more than Ned because she was sitting on top of Midtown High, their school, and holding the Black Dahlia necklace where they, that's the spot they met in No Way Home and that he went to after Aunt May's death. So I think Jean's spell definitely like unlocked something. And I think it's very likely that it unlocked something in Ned too because I just think the handshake that their handshake, I think that's muscle memory, but I can also see that being part of what unlocks his jogging of Peter, of course. But it could also be that Ned just makes the connection that Spider-Man name is Peter, and there's a guy introducing himself as Peter. So I feel like for Ned, they could go a little either way, or just say that is starting to remember more, but that MJ actually like is getting full on memories back. Unsure. We'll find out in the next movie, but I like to think that they have some memories now or some memories that are like ready to be unlocked. But yeah, that's all I got. I absolutely adore this movie. I love it a lot. It's amazing, sensational, spectacular. It's the ultimate Spider-Man movie. It's all I could ever ask for in a Spider-Man movie, really. If you guys could like, subscribe, comment, it's all greatly appreciated. I want to hear your guys' thoughts about Spider-Man, Brand New Day, or my thoughts about it. Do you agree, disagree on what I've said? But also, I'm doing this video. If you haven't noticed, I did this video a little differently than what I normally do. Typically, I would type out what I want to say exactly, and then kind of memorize it and read it. But I was talking with some friend, a cousin and a friend, and they were both like, "Yeah, you come off as a little robotic." So I thought I'd try it a little more differently and just let my thoughts flow this time. So I want to hear people's thoughts if you think that works better. I think I think I can add a little bit more of scriptedness and then work in the just letting my thoughts flow. That's kind of what's happening right now. But I'm sure I just want to hear people's thoughts on it. And I also did get a mic. If you didn't notice, I've been wearing it the whole time. Sounds a lot better, I think. So production quality is going up. But yeah, as I said, if you guys could like, subscribe, comment, all that, it's genuinely all greatly appreciated. I love Spider-Man. And real quick, before the video ends, I want to shout out my top commenter on my channel right now is Lego Wizard BB. He's in lead by quite a bit. So thank you for your comments, man. I totally don't know you.